Story 1. The Green Ranger's Dragon Dagger. It was one of the first things I bought for myself once I had adult money. Story 2. Those bouncy moon shoes. I was actually talking with someone about them the other day, got excited, and ordered some from Amazon. Going to heal my inner child. Story 3. Those glow-in-the-dark stars you put on the ceiling. My aunt told my mom they remove paint when taken off, so I was never allowed to have any. Sometimes I still think about getting a pack but never do. Story 4. A picture pages marker. Mom told me she ordered one about 40 years ago, and I still half-check every time I go to the mailbox. Story 5. Love. Equality with my brother. A magic pencil that makes whatever I write come to life, although I cannot draw. Relatives who give me money instead of unsolicited life advice. Story 6. There was a magnetic fishing toy for bathtubs from Toys R Us that disappeared from the cart when going through checkout. It did not magically disappear. Story 7. Unconditional love. Support for my interests. An apology for wrongdoings. All the money my parents borrowed and never returned. Compliment. Story 8. Unconditional love, affection, protection, acceptance, and hugs. Someone to simply say everything will be okay. A father. I am left with abandonment issues stemming from my mother, always trying to prove myself, wanting her to accept me the way I am, constantly in survival mode. I finally realized I am exhausted and fighting a losing battle. She has never given me these things and never will. I have to accept this, move on, and set healthy boundaries. I have nothing to prove, and I am worthy of good things. Story 9. My Little Pony Paradise Estate was a huge success for My Little Pony in the 1980s. They had one on display at a local store, and I would run there every time my mom took me. I spent the whole time staring at it, imagining my ponies prancing around inside. It cost an enormous amount of money, and I don't blame my parents for not getting it, but that thing was an obsession for several years. Story 10. 3 meals a day. My house was always full, and it was the neighborhood hangout. Every night, there were at least 7 to 10 people sleeping in my home. I eventually became accustomed to 6 people in a room and 1 meal a day. Story 11. An actual father to raise me and to know who he was. My birth certificate says unknown. Medical history on my father's side would have been nice too. Story 12. A rabbit. My mother would take me to the rabbit farm. You could take one home for the week and bring it back. My mother was unpleasant. Story 13. A dollhouse. I desperately wanted one, but when I asked my stepmother, she said no. My 4-year-old brain assumed that meant I could not have one at all, not just that she would not buy me one, so I never asked anyone again. Story 14. I don't really remember what stands out now. The biggest thing I remember was how much they hated each other after they divorced. Sometimes I ended up in awkward situations. There were even clothes I was not allowed to wear to the other house. I thought, this is a bunch of nonsense. Story 15. When I was a kid, my hometown arranged for Nickelodeon to do a show called Game Lab for an end-of-summer celebration. They asked for a volunteer to get slimed, and I really wanted them to pick me. Unfortunately for me, about 1,000 other kids wanted to volunteer as well, and luck was not on my side. Story 16. Emotional support. Thankfully, my parents stepped up eventually, and now at 26, I feel comfortable calling them when I am struggling. Story 17. To be a flower girl in a wedding. I only went to one wedding when I was 9, and I did not know the couple well enough for them to consider me. Then I got married at 23 and still have not been in a wedding at all except my own. Story 18. The Little Mermaid car from the J.C. Penney catalog. My parents told me later that they had planned on getting it for me for Christmas, but the shipping was more expensive than the item itself. Story 19. Honest answers from adults. I kept asking questions like, why do we have to do this? Or why does this rule exist? And getting responses like, because I said so, or that's just how things are. I wanted someone to actually explain the logic instead of just expecting me to accept things without understanding them. Still working on that one, apparently. Story 20. I never got to go trick or treating. I was always sick with asthma, bronchitis, and tonsillitis. It didn't help that my dad smoked 3 packs a day, so my brothers got to go, but I had to stay home and hand out candy. I sat by the door so the kids wouldn't knock and make the dog bark, which upset my parents because they couldn't hear the television. Story 21. A mini bike. I went out and bought a used one with savings and had to return it the very next day without a refund. The seller came by later with a check though. All those television commercials about Action Park never went over well. Story 22. PlayStation. Now I have a laptop far more powerful, but there is no age or time to play. Story 23. A Barbie dream house, and to make my childhood wounds hurt more, my children did not like Barbie. I will patiently wait for grandchildren. Story 24. Rainbow-flavored ice cream. Artificial colors were never really allowed, as they were believed to cause hyperactivity, but sugar and hyperactivity in children is an old myth. Funny enough, I remember having a green Super Duper when I was in year 3 and telling my mother about it, and she got angry. Story 25. A Superman action figure to add to my collection of Batman figures. I had to wait until I was an adult to get one. Story 26. From the Dollar Tree, a Mickey Mouse coloring book that also had a cover with shoes on it that you could actually lace up. I am 33 and still upset about this. It was only $1. Story 27. Karate lessons. It was not considered ladylike and it cost money, so I did not pursue it. I earned my black belt in 2017 after realizing that nobody could stop me. Story 28. I can't think of anything that I never received as a child. I have been told I never really asked for much and was thankful for what I got. However, I do remember asking my cousin to get me a box of Mike and Ike candy and never received any. Story 29. Respectful teachers who do not bully you about having anxiety and stomach aches because they do not know how to teach children. Story 30. As a child, it would have been a video game console. Now, as an adult, I would have preferred a normal, caring mother instead of constant switching between caring and accusing me of making things up when I was sick. Story 31. 1. Parents' attention and time, which they did not want to spend with me. 2. Just a couple of good friends. Story 32. I wish my father did not pass away from a heart attack at a young age. It makes me wonder if I would have been on a much better path in life than I am now. Just being raised in a normal 2-parent household would have been a wonderful gift. Story 33. My parents always said it was too expensive. I thought they were all gone, but I went past one recently and stopped. It was $5, not expensive at all. I go regularly now. That white chocolate mousse flavor has me in a chokehold. Story 34. A chocolate cake for my birthday. My dad would always get me anything but a chocolate cake because he did not like chocolate cake, even though it was for my birthday. Story 35. Every Christmas and birthday, I asked for a metal detector and never got one. One day, we were at some markets and I saw one. I practically begged my parents to buy it. My mum responded, "We got you one last Christmas. I haven't seen you use it once." That was when we found out my parents sometimes hid Christmas presents so well that even they forgot where they were, only to find them almost a year later. Story 36. A Teddy Ruxpin, or however you spell it, was my best friend growing up. I remember being amazed by his mouth moving while he spoke. I thought it was the best thing besides the Tickle Me Elmo. I got the Elmo though. Teddy was, in my opinion, the coolest thing in my 6-year-old mind. He was amazing. Story 37. The reason I gained weight at a young age was polycystic ovary syndrome. I have too many eggs, which causes insulin resistance in my cells. My parents tried everything from sports to diets and various doctors, but they never considered it could be something internal beyond just diabetes. I do produce insulin. Story 38. Everyone else has already expressed their wish for not having been abused and for having good parents, so I will say a treehouse. Story 39. 1. An Easy Bake Oven light bulb. Mom refused to buy it because she thought it was dangerous. Why she bought the oven for me without all the parts, I have no idea. Having what were supposed to be celebratory milestones not be the time to make me feel ashamed for not being on the dean's list with honors or valedictorian. To feel proud and beautiful, not ugly and ashamed of how I look. To not have to be constantly told I need plastic surgery to be pretty and to lose weight. Story 40. Warhammer. I did receive some as a gift, but I was naughty, so my dad threw it all away. At the time, Warhammer was hard to find where I lived, so I never got any more. Later, I grew up and forgot about it for many years. Now, my wife has to put up with a massive collection as I make up for childhood trauma. Edit. Now I'm reading other people's comments about just having a loving parent, and I feel bad for thinking my lack of Warhammer is trauma or comparable. My condolences to people who had it rough. Story 41. Owning a car as a family. In Egypt, many families have cars in addition to public transportation, which is an advantage. This is different from the United States, where owning a car is necessary to travel freely. Story 42. Furby, specifically the Easter Furby boom, has a cute tail. I had been begging my parents to get me one, but we either could not afford it or my parents did not want to buy it. Story 43. A normal parental bond. My mom is gone now. I know she loved me, and I loved her, but our relationship was always difficult. My dad was just unpleasant. I was raised by my grandparents and was shuffled around, never having one permanent home. It wasn't a bad childhood necessarily, but it wasn't settled or stable. I was also an only child, so I developed some maladaptive coping mechanisms to deal with the loneliness. I daydreamed a lot as a kid that my real parents would show up someday to pick me up from school. I imagined having a home where I stayed all the time and where we would eat dinner at home. My dad's parents didn't cook. Then I would sigh, knowing it was unrealistic, and grab my bike to ride to my grandparents' house. Story 44. A parent who took the initiative to communicate with me instead of emotionally abandoning me in front of a television. Story 45. A dog. My mother grew up with dogs at home and would have been okay with it. My father, on the other hand, was absolutely set against it. He did not give any reasons, just said, "No livestock." And it stuck. I got dogs after I was an adult, though I do not currently have one. Story 46. A loving family. A day in the house without arguments. My mother admitting that I am a good person and able to be loved for once. Story 47. Aside from less family issues, a loom. I could crochet a little and embroider well, but make cloth? Design it from scratch and watch it grow? No, not as a kid. At 29, I got myself a rigid heddle loom. By now, there is a large floor loom in the library and a smaller one in the living room. I'm not even using them much at the moment, but I love them no matter what. Story 48. Those stuffed animals that folded into pillows. I vividly remember a ladybug one. They were always on commercials when I watched the Disney Channel. I constantly begged my parents but never got one. Story 49. I have always wanted to take karate lessons. My mother would not let me. I am still upset about it. However, I plan on joining a local Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym. Story 50. A sibling. It would have helped me immensely to have that friend, confidant, partner through the chaos. Instead, I had to navigate it all alone. Story 51. To play a string instrument. I was about 6 when I went to Branson, Missouri with my family and saw fiddles and other instruments. Ever since then, I was obsessed with the idea of playing the violin someday. Even when I tried the viola out in middle school tryouts, they said I was a natural. My mom said they lied to me to get more people into orchestra. I was forced to play piano in elementary school, and having dyscalculia, I couldn't be bothered to read music. Of course, my mom took that as defiance or laziness for some reason. Years later, when we had to select orchestra, band, or choir, I begged her to be in orchestra but was told no and was forced to be in band because my mom never got to participate and wanted to live vicariously through me. Luckily for both of us, I had an amazing time in band. I played clarinet for 14 years throughout school and college and had wonderful experiences that I wouldn't have had in orchestra, like going to Disney, marching in their parade, and playing live music for the movie Tarzan. The irony? My younger cousin, who I lived with, chose viola. I think he wanted to play saxophone, but his mom said no. Our family is complicated. Story 52. A dog. My mom did not like dogs due to a bad childhood experience. It was hard to bond with my grandparents' dogs because many got run over near their house. When I got my first dog at age 24, I was so excited I felt like I had my first child. Story 53. Every Christmas I asked Santa for the big head on a plate that you could style the hair with all the surrounding accessories. I never got it. I got my kids one, and they were unimpressed. But I finally had one. No idea why that thing meant so much, except maybe that Jenny across the street had one and would not let me play with it. I still think buying the thing was important for me. I take my kids' Santa list seriously, but they really do not ask for much. Story 54. A dog. I got a fake dog statue as a kid. As an adult, I got a real dog. Now my parents wonder why I love dogs more than anyone. My dad is annoyed by my dogs. It is funny how my dogs bring me the most happiness, but he finds it annoying. Oh well, you cannot please everyone. Story 55. Go vacationing on the moon. I was promised I would be taken on my 13th birthday. Now I am in my 40s, both parents home, still no moon vacation. Story 56. Since childhood, people have said, "You look unique." Not a single compliment, and they would always compare me with my beautiful siblings. Hearing that I look like a monster broke me inside. Story 57. A diagnosis, or at least acknowledgement from my family that I needed help, not ignoring everything all my life. Story 58. Attention. I didn't care when I was a child, but as I grew older, all it took was a little more attention and love. Story 59. A unicycle was supposed to come for Christmas, but was backordered. Then, for my birthday in January, it never showed up. As an adult, I realized that it was never ordered, and my parents did me a favor because I probably would have broken my neck. Story 60. A Barbie doll that can bend her knees and arms. My Little Pony plushies. PlayStation. The first two were not available when I was a child, and the PlayStation was too expensive. Story 61. As a child, I lived without my father in the same house, and I grew accustomed to seeing him once a week. I did not mind, but I found it odd that other children's fathers lived with them. Because of that, I always asked Santa Claus to have us live in the same house. I was 8 when I found out that he already had a new family and that my wish would never be granted. That also coincided with the time I stopped believing in Santa Claus and realized that not all wishes come true. Story 62. Bicycle. My father said in a week, then in a month, then in 2 months. Then years passed. I waited and waited until I grew up and never got it. I understand it though. My father had financial problems, and he and my mother were raising 3 kids while helping my ill grandmother. Story 63. Bicycle. My parents would not buy one for me because one of my cousins died from riding a bicycle. Now I am grown, 25 years old, and I own 2 bicycles. Story 64. Sanrio mini wallets and pencil cases. I have them on my Amazon wish list in case anyone in my family ever treats me. Story 65. An easy bake oven. I have thought about buying one, but I have been allowed to use the regular grown-up stove since I was 10, so there is not much point. Also, a Cabbage Patch Kid. No one will admit to switching tags accidentally, but when I was 8 and my little brother was 4, he got one. He loved it so much that I do not think anyone could bear raising the issue, even me. There was no way to get another one, considering how popular they were and the state of family finances. Story 66. I came here to say giant teddy bear, and have been completely humbled by the responses. You all deserved so much better. Story 67. Disneyland. Unfortunately, my family and I have not been because none of the amusement parks are nearby, but maybe someday when Abu Dhabi opens one. Story 68. The list is long. We did not have much money, but I still had a wonderful childhood. We were outside playing all the time, and most of my relatives lived on farms. I had many cousins and a great extended family. I was very lucky. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.